Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Soybeans account for over 5 million acres of crop production in Ohio, making it the most planted crop in the state and the most lucrative from an economic standpoint, bringing in over $4 billion annually to Ohio's bottom line. That makes research and development at the local level so important. That's where our next guest comes in. Dr. Laura Lindsay is professor of soybeans and small grain production at The Ohio State University. Dr. Lindsay, it's great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Before we get into what you're doing on the research side, let's talk about this growing season. We have seen some challenges, whether it's too much rain early on in the planting season, maybe not getting the crops in the timely manner that you wanted to. And then, of course, we dried off, saw a drought that typically we don't see in spring across Ohio. What do these challenges mean for the soybean crop across the state?
Yeah, fortunately, soybeans are extremely resilient. But yes, we had challenges really almost any time you planted. So if you planted in that window, that mid-April to late April window, the challenge there is things got wet and cold. So that first week of May, I think I was at a field site and it was 40 degrees, completely saturated, just kind of ugly yellow looking beans. If you waited to plant until May though, now you were hit with the dry soil, and that surface soil, that top 2 inches, 3 inches was really, really dry. So no matter when you planted, there were challenges. However, we do know soybeans are extremely resilient and there's a lot of time in the growing season.
There has been a really big dynamic shift in when to plant corn and when to plant soybeans. For years, corn went in first, soybeans kind of played second fiddle and went in when the corn was done. We have seen over the last couple of years a real push to plant those soybeans earlier, and that's where something called Battle for the Belt comes in, something you're working on there with your team at Ohio State. Talk about that project and why we're seeing this shift in philosophy.
Sure. So we know planting date for soybean is really important. We've seen as much as a half a bushel per acre per day loss in yield for each day planted after the 1st of May. But we also know planting date for corn is really important as well. So my colleague and I, Oslo Ortez, we came up with this project called Battle for the Belt to see which crop you should plant first. And it's going to depend on location and other factors as well. But soybeans, I'm team soybean, right? Obviously, my hypothesis is with soybeans, they're extremely resilient. So if you plant them a little bit early when it's less ideal, I think they're better off than maybe what corn. So really what I think in terms of planting date order, soybeans first, maybe when it's more marginal, hit corn in that sweet spot when conditions are ideal. And then if you still need to plant, go back to soybeans, because we know soybeans can yield well planted late, which is why we have double crop soybeans. So that's the idea, is to try to figure out when we should really plant these crops based on the location in Ohio.
A lot of the research you do supported by the Ohio Soybean Council. We'll get to that in just a bit. But when I talk about soybean technology with people that aren't involved in agriculture, they think I'm talking strictly about the seed and the genetics that go into making the different soybean varieties that we're seeing planted across Ohio. But seed treatment and the technology there and protecting that seed for the entire growing season has come a long way in the recent years as well.
Yeah, we have a large project right now looking at biological seed treatment. So most farmers will plant a fungicide or insecticide seed treatment on their seed as a standard practice, but we're seeing a lot of growth in the biological seed treatment industry. So we had a project last year we initiated in Ohio, but we also had collaborating states. We had 17 states last year with 49 different growing environments evaluating 9 different biological seed treatments to see which ones can help improve soybean yield. They have different, I'll call it modes of action. Some are supposed to help increase phosphorus uptake, nitrogen uptake, response to stress, increase root growth, so a variety of different mechanisms. But we did evaluate them last year, 17 states, 49 different locations.
Wow. And, we're hearing more about cover crops. We have seen an uptick of use over the last 10 years of 50% more cover crops being planted across Ohio. We're going to hear, of course, more about nitrogen as we get to the Ohio River and some of the H2 Ohio projects that might be happening there in years to come. Where are we seeing cover crops in the soybean conversation as we continue to evolve with soil health and water quality?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to cover crops. There's a lot of interest in cover crops. There are management interactions of how to deal with that cover crop related to soybean. For just one example, we've been looking at really early planting dates in soybeans. So first week of April with and without a cover crop. And we see with a cover crop and very early planting, not work out very well, just very detrimental. But if you pivot to a more normal planting date, end of April, May, no issues, no problem whatsoever. We do see some weed control implications. If we have a cover crop and a more normal planting date, you can see fewer weed problems. But yeah, very much benefits, but an area where we need to research because there are management interactions with cover crops.
Where can farmers find your research and some of the things that you've been able to find for Ohio soybean farmers?
Sure. So, one really great way to follow along with our research is the corn newsletter. So the corn's not the crop, it's Crop Observation Recommendation Network. So agcrops.osu.edu. That's our newsletter. So I encourage people to subscribe to our newsletter because once you're subscribed, you'll see our videos, upcoming webinars, upcoming field days, and that's just a good way to stay up to date of what we're seeing in the field and also what information we're putting out. We'll have links to our YouTube channels, things like that.
The relationship between Ohio State and the Ohio Soybean Council is longstanding. Why is it so important? Because those are checkoff dollars. Those come from farmers' pockets. Why is it important for those dollars to be sent to you and your team to do that research there at Ohio State?
Yeah, the funding is extremely helpful from multiple standpoints. First off, it helps us answer applied research questions, right? So the questions that I get are oftentimes written into Ohio Soybean Council proposals and submitted there, right? And so I'll just give an example, that cover crop project and planting date project, that came directly from a farmer in Madison County. And he asked the question, I'm like, that's a great idea. And then we did the research. So I guess it's, if you have questions, let me know because there's a good chance it'll get written into a proposal at some point. And then second of all, a lot of this funding is used to support graduate students. So a lot of these projects I'm talking about now have a graduate student related to them, right? And these are your future seed dealers in Ohio, chemical dealers in Ohio, county extension educators in Ohio. So supporting those students who are likely to stay in the state and give back to the state, I think is really important.
Dollars well invested to not only better Ohio soybeans, but Ohio soybean farmers. Dr. Laura Lindsay, professor of soybean and grain production at Ohio State University. Anything that has to do with soybeans, if I have a question, that's who I call. Dr. Lindsay, good to see you.
Yep, thanks.
Find out how Nationwide Agribusiness can help you grow your business. Get to know the people with the experience and knowledge to help you. Whether you are looking to protect your farm or ranch from the ground up, or need someone who understands your changing commercial ag needs. Find out how to better manage the risks of your ag business, or how quickly you can get back to business. Learn how you can protect your next with Nationwide on your side.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. StoneX offering a free Farm Marketing 101 webinar for Ohio Farm Bureau members on July 25th. Talk more about that, one of the presenters of the webinar, Tom Dosdall, Senior Risk Management Consultant with StoneX Financial's FCM division. Tom, it's great to see you again.
Thank you, Ty. It's good to be back.
We talk about a number of things when we talk about Farm Marketing 101, and I am still amazed when I talk with farmers about their break-evens, how many of them either guesstimate or simply don't know at all. Why is it important to know that break-even for the operation?
Well, I know it's a little hard work to put it together and get all those numbers together, but it really does pay off and it is worth it because we need to know that number so that we can ensure we know where our profitability is and where we're going to make our decisions in terms of marketing, where we're going to sell our crop or where we're going to hedge our crop. It's also going to allow us the ability to plan for the future and grow our business. So without knowing that number, we're just shooting in the dark, and that's, in our opinion, not a great way to run the business.
And, there are things, the variables you actually know are the input cost up front. You can write that down on paper, but then it comes to that grain marketing perspective, and nobody knows what the markets are going to do. Even next week, after we saw what happened over the last month in the markets, what are you going to be covering in this webinar from a grain marketing perspective?
Sure. So we'll start off by going over how to calculate a break even and look at some of the software that we have that assists our clients in doing that. And not everyone, we realize, sits down and puts the pen to paper on every single thing. So we can actually use university budgets as kind of a shortcut for guys who are maybe in Ohio, for example, to use sort of a template to get you started. And then if you know you have some inputs that are variable off that university budget, you can make those custom edits. So we're going to start there. We're going to talk about crop insurance and how that factors in to understanding break evens as well. We're going to then get into a little bit more talk about the importance of cash basis in your local area and understanding carry in the market and what it's telling you in terms of should I be storing now or should I not be storing. So we'll go over those, then we'll get into kind of the basics of, making a cash sale as one tool in the toolbox. We'll go over the other tools that are in the toolbox too, such as an introduction to futures, an introduction to options, and some of the tools that we have here at StoneX to assist our clients in identifying when's the right time to use the right tool in that marketing toolbox.
Do certain marketing tools work for certain operations, or is there a one-size-fits-all approach?
No, there's no one size fits all because it really does depend. It depends on each operation's understanding of risk, understanding of capital that can be used in terms of margin positions versus cash sales. So no one size fits all. So we'll go over some of the broad topics and go over kind of the tools that are there at the hardware store that you can take off the shelf. And then our job as we work with each individual client is to help you understand, is this the right tool for the job that you're trying to do, on any given day and specific to your operation.
What are some of the other things you're going to be sharing during the webinar, Tom?
We're going to go over, those items we just discussed. So basis, carry, an understanding of futures, options, and also I think there's some really good tools that folks don't know about in terms of cash sales that can, if you route cash sales through StoneX, you can keep control over bushels and basis, not use margin, things like that. So we're going to touch on that, and we're going to go over at the end it's not so new anymore, but our Farm Advantage app, which we still want to get out there to the masses for everyone to see, and also some software that we have that will introduce that will allow folks to take what they've learned in the webinar and incorporate it into their app and be able to do this on the go mobily. So we want everyone to take that away from us as well.
One of the many valuable resources for Ohio Farm Bureau members, our partnership with StoneX. Again, this webinar, the free Farm Marketing 101 webinar, coming up on July 25th. If you want to register, I'll put the link in the description of this podcast, and you can find out more as well at ohiofarmbureau.org. Tom Dosdall is Senior Risk Management Consultant with StoneX Financial's FCM division. Tom, really appreciate your time, and thanks for the insights. Looking forward to seeing you on the 25th at this webinar.
Thanks, Ty, for the opportunity. Great to be with you.
Here in our state, there's an energy at work, a drive to help people live healthier lives with confidence. But it can't be done alone. That's why our healthcare, business, and community leaders have joined together to help people here feel more empowered by their healthcare, leading to improved long-term health and savings. A health plan for small businesses in the agricultural industry was created by the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation. It provides members the tools, resources, and financial protection to feel confident in their healthcare decisions. By sharing responsibilities, we help build healthier employees and communities, driving down costs, connecting members digitally to Anthem's diverse network of local resources, participating in health literacy, easing administrative burdens. Joining the plan means you're part of making healthcare work better, giving people the confidence to make anything possible. To learn more about how the plan can work for your business, visit our website or call your broker or Anthem sales representative.
The Ohio Farm Bureau podcast continues talking about our young agricultural professionals. Derek Snyder is the chair of the YAP committee, also farms there in Hardin County. Derek, great to see you.
Thanks for having us today, Ty.
I love being around your group of young farmers at all these events you put on throughout the year. We'll talk about some new events coming up regionally here in just a bit. But for those that aren't involved in YAP, how would you describe what the organization is?
So the Ohio Farm Bureau's Young Ag Professionals is a group of like-minded individuals that are all involved in the agricultural sector. So for American Farm Bureau, they're known as young farmers and ranchers. And the Ohio group has decided, there's not many ranchers in the state of Ohio. And we wanted to make that connection that no matter your involvement in ag, whether you're a full-time farmer, part-time farmer, or work somehow connected in the ag industry or came from an ag background, you're welcome as part of our group. So our young ag professionals are anybody 18 to 35 that's involved in agriculture in any what way and are actively invited to participate in any of the events we have coming up, no matter what they may be.
Yeah, some new events too, some regional events throughout the state of Ohio. Talk to us about those and why you're working on those.
So for years, the Ohio Farm Bureau's Young Ag Professionals trademark event has always been the Winter Leadership Experience. Traditionally held in Columbus. In the past couple of years, we've gotten excited and expanded out of Central Ohio, but we're moving back. But one of the main things we always hear about Winter Leadership Experience is the networking. It's people that you get to see maybe once a year that maybe you went to college with, that you catch up there at Winter Leadership Experience, or you meet them at Winter Leadership Experience, and you get to talk about things happening in your family, on your operation, in your job that you're able to compare stories with. So our class, or this group of young ag professional state committee members, decided, that's something we need to do more of. So this year we decided, let's try it once to see if it works. So we divided the state up into the 4 quadrants: Northwest Ohio, Northeast, Southwest, Southeast, and each region is having a regional event coming up later this summer, starting July 23rd. That some of the committee members have decided to open up their farms or a local park or a 4-H camp to invite young ag professionals from their area to just come. There's not really an agenda. We're just going to get together, socialize, have some food. The state board's going to be there a little bit to answer some questions, maybe share some about what their involvement is, and just get together. I think the networking piece is one of the most important things that we as young ag professionals are able to take advantage of. So why not get together more than once a year?
Easiest way to find out about these regional gatherings is on Facebook. We have the events created there on Ohio Farm Bureau's Facebook page, so just search us there.
Somebody had asked me, so if I live in Northwest Ohio, can I attend another event? Well, we decided if you are able to attend one, but it doesn't fit your calendar for your region, feel free to attend any of them. So if your calendar conflicts due to a county fair, we can never pick a good date in the summertime that works for everybody. Feel free to join one of the other ones. We'll take you no matter where you're going.
No such thing as enemy territory with the Ohio Farm
That's
Bureau
right.
Organization. You guys are heading to Washington, D.C. We do the county president's trip every year right around March, taking all the county presidents and some vice presidents out to D.C. to lobby on behalf of Ohio agriculture. The YAP group does that very same thing coming up in September.
That is correct. So I believe that we'll have a group of 30-some individuals going to D.C. Of course, we'll be taking tours of the monuments, meeting with American Farm Bureau. But one of the big things we always enjoy with this is meeting with our legislators. I think the best way to get a point across is to share our story with those elected officials that are in D.C. And the big thing, of course, this year is the Farm Bill. Farm Bill is always big for agriculture, no matter your involvement, and it's getting them to understand that even though the Farm Bill is called the Farm Bill, not much of it relates back to production agriculture. So with Farm Bureau's involvement, making sure that our elected leaders know what our support is and some of the hot topics of the Farm Bill to make sure those stay involved. For instance, crop insurance is always one of those hot topic things that crop insurance is very needed, and the support of the Farm Bill for that. Make sure some of those continue on. And by being young ag professionals and sharing our personal stories to our lawmakers really drives home how this stuff's important and why it's needed.
You mentioned that benchmark event you have there with young ag professionals with Ohio Farm Bureau, that winter leadership experience. And as soon as we wrapped up the 2023 experience up in Sandusky, you guys were planning on the 2024 one coming up this January. What do we have on the docket early on?
So for 2024, we'll be back in Columbus at the Columbus Convention Center, so back to old territory. So as a planning committee, we know the joys and challenges of being back in Central Ohio, but we've really kind of flipped the agenda on its head. In years past, we've always had extended learning sessions before or after the conference, and we decided, let's put some more emphasis on those, and we've got to change those to be more tours. So at the conclusion of the event, or this is the conclusion of the event on Saturday, we'll have some new tours to partake in, bus rides to some of the ag-related events or companies in Central Ohio that you may think are ag related, but may not be. We're doing, of course, a lot of emphasis on the breakout sessions. When everybody comes to Winter Leadership Experience, not only is it the networking, but it's the educational aspect. So we're putting some effort behind some higher powered speakers that can offer some breakouts, having some repeated breakouts, because we've heard that in the past that, there's so many good things, but they overlap with something else. So we're going to try to do a few repeats or encore presentations. So if you don't get to hear it the first time because there's something else, we'll have it for you the second time.
Always a fantastic list of topics and presenters, and even some of the speakers this year, some social media influencers that I'm really excited to see. And I know young ag professionals across the state will be heading to Columbus to see them as well in January. As we get more details from Derek and his team, of course, we'll pass them on to you via our website, our emails, and every other way we can reach out to Ohio Farm Bureau members. Derek Snyder, he's the chair of Ohio Farm Bureau's Young Ag Professionals. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you down the road.
Thanks, Ty. Really appreciate it.